Alright, what's up, guys? So, for the first time ever for this story, now next week will be the season finale. I already know I'm going to talk about. On Paranormal Adventures, I'm going to be talking about the Joseph D. Oliver House, Part 2. Talk about most of the paranormal stories, and then possibly talk about George Gipp, or the Gipper. If you're a Notre Dame fan or a college football fan, you know who the Gipper is, the ghost from Notre Dame. But today's episode, you're going to hear a story from my dad. He's going to talk about a story from when it was around the 80s. So next time you see the camera on will be him. So, all right.
And after my wife and I moved out, I still had a drum set over at my mom and dad's house. And I still had one of my little stereos that's over there, and a boombox. And my dad wanted to go up and have a beer with us, so we met him up there, and we were talking about some old. My dad was telling me that my mom was complaining that she could hear somebody talking and singing downstairs. I said, "You sure it's not a car stereo or something that maybe?" My mom woke up at 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning, and after about the fifth or sixth time, my dad's like, "What the hell is going on?" So he woke up one Saturday morning. It was probably about 5:30, and he heard this noise. He goes to the top of the steps, he listens, he's like, "What the hell is that? I can hear it now." So he goes outside. He doesn't hear any car stereo. This is not somebody getting ready for work, turned on the stereo, and they were gonna take off to work. It was a nice Saturday morning, the sun was coming up. My dad's like, "Shit, what the hell is this?" So he goes to the top of the steps, hears that, starts to go down the steps. He gets to the bottom of the steps. All of a sudden, it stops. He's like, "What the hell is going on?" So he goes over where my boombox was. He's like, "It's not that, it's unplugged." I took the batteries out when I first left home, packed them in a little sack, and took them with me. So after this happened 3 or 4 times to my dad, we're out having a beer, and my dad said, "You have got to hear this, because this is really weird." So I thought, all right, I'll go over there. So I go over there, and my mom gets up out of bed. She's like, "Tim, I heard it about 15 minutes ago, just before you pulled up." And I'm like, all right. So then I hear the shit, and I'm going, I know this song. This is the last song I had ever played just before I left home. And I'm thinking, what am I hearing? So I go to the bottom of the steps, and I'm thinking, maybe it's outside. I can still hear it. As soon as I come around the corner, it stops, and I don't find anything. Just like my dad said, just like my mother said. So I'm thinking, man, there's got to be something to this. This is really bizarre. So I went back up the steps, and as I was coming around the corner, my mom, of course, went back to bed because she had to get up early that morning. And I hear it again, and I'm like, what the hell am I hearing? I go outside, nothing outside, come back in, I can just barely hear it, same song. Go to the top of the steps, and I'm thinking, you know what? I bet you anything I don't know nothing about electricity, so don't laugh too hard, but static electricity, I don't know if that can cause it. But then I'm thinking, you dumbass, you took the batteries out of the thing. It cannot be that stereo. So I'm going, you know what? I was pretty well weirded out. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go back upstairs and wake my mom up. And because I sure the hell ain't going down there alone. So I got her pack up, and we can barely hear something. And I'm thinking, this is weird. I get down there, and it was really eerie. Very, very eerie feeling, like somebody was down there, but you couldn't see anything. So my mom is like, "You wanted me down here for what?" I'm like, "Sure, I'm not going to come down here myself. I'm supposed to be the big man, but I turned into a big wuss." And she's like, "I'm going back to bed." I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sticking around here." So I shut the lights off, I go back up, I look down, light back on. I'm thinking, okay. So I left it alone. So about 2 weeks later, we stay the night over there. And I go downstairs to look and see if I can figure out it's not electrical. There's no batteries in the thing. But obviously, it was on. And my dad said after I had taken that out, he never heard it again. But I'd never, ever, ever believed in that stuff until after my son brought a few things to light. And I forgot all about that moment, but I always will remember that the rest of my life when I saw what I saw and I heard what I heard, because I mean, we debunked everything. Everything else that there was no other radio source. We looked at all the outlets. There was nothing else plugged in there. There was no source. I mean, there was nothing there. My dad's stereo we unplugged just in case it was something that, we had went through everything and couldn't find a single clue as to what the hell we were listening to. I mean, I knew the song, but I didn't know where it was coming from. So, amazingly, miraculously, it stops once I take that out of there. So, is there something to it? Well, it might have been. And I do believe it was. It was just, I just never had anything. And that was the first time I ever had something that was maybe above what I usually think of. And it just really, it made me think of a lot of things that, that we bump in the night may not just be a bump in the night. Maybe a song that you heard 25 years ago. Something to think about, huh? Thanks for listening to me.